Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle, the podcast for high performers who've gone all in, but still feeling a little stuck. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, coach, speaker, and creator of the Prime Performance Process. If you're a solopreneur, small business owner, or just launched your side hustle and you're tired of grinding with no momentum, this is for you. Every week, we bring you guests that have broke the code, generated momentum, and finally got unstuck. And we're diving into their stories, their struggles, and their secrets to generating massive momentum in both their personal and professional lives. We don't do fluff here. We do frameworks, real talk, and share the kind of insights that get you unstuck for good. Welcome, and let's get rolling. But before we dive in, I gotta remind you, if you're overwhelmed, spinning your wheels, or just tired of hustling without the results, it's time for a Prime Performance Strategy session. In this free call, we'll zoom out on your life and business, identify the real reason you're feeling stuck, and build a game plan to help you reclaim your confidence, energy, and gain some clarity so you can get back to doing what you set out to do. Lead, grow, and thrive. This isn't surface level coaching. It's a system built on resilience, intentionality, clarity, and alignment. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to grab your spot today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Let's get going and help you look good, feel good, and do great things. Happy Friday and welcome back to Surviving the Side Hustle Recap Friday episode. And I want to ask you guys something a little bit uncomfortable. When you sit and you think, what happens? Have you ever really sat and asked, like, what happens when you finally achieve the life that you were told that you want, and then just realize it doesn't actually feel like yours? Not that it's bad, not that it's broken, just that it feels strangely empty. You did everything, quote unquote, right. You followed the rules, you checked the boxes, and yet something inside of you keeps whispering that this isn't it. Because that's exactly what this conversation this week with Florian Kemmerich brings to the surface. Because it isn't about quitting your job or blowing up your life. It comes down to really being about something far more confronting, which is choosing your life consciously instead of inheriting it unconsciously. So this week's episode, the guest interview episode, we had Florian Kemmerich. He is the founder of On Vocation. He's an author, an investor, and global thought leader focused on one core question. How do we align who we are with what we do? See, at just 33 years old, Florian walked away from a high-level corporate career and a version of success that looked impressive on paper. But here's what really mattered most. He didn't walk away because he had failed. He walked away because he succeeded. He had realized that success alone wasn't enough. And the distinction is critical because many people listening to this podcast right now aren't struggling. Actually, they're functioning. You guys are capable, more than capable, and you're respected. And that's exactly why the deeper question gets postponed. One of the most powerful frames Florian shared was that most education systems teach us how to make a living, but almost never teach us how to live a life. We go through life and we learn things like our skills, different roles, titles, expectations, but we barely ever pause to ask, what do I actually care about? What kind of contribution feels meaningful to me? What problem do I feel called to engage with? See, the gap doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later as like burnout or a midlife crisis, divorce, the golden handcuffs feeling, or just quiet regret. Not loud breakdowns, but subtle dissatisfaction. The kind where you're busy all day and yet somehow feel disconnected from yourself. when we had the conversation with Florian here, he said something that really stuck out to me. He had said that I had been the absent subject of my own education. I'll say that again. He said I had been the absent subject of my own education. Think about that. He had been educated. He had the credentials. He was promoted, but never asked to include himself in the equation. No one ever asked him, what matters to you? What do you feel responsible for? What kind of life would you choose if you weren't responding to everybody's expectations? Instead, Florian realized that he had built a life around competence, achievement, identity, and external validation, which eventually became a shield. See, a shield that protected him from asking those deeper questions. But at the same time, it also kept him from expressing who he really was. This is where the episode starts to get deep. Florian talks about how success itself can become armor. We hide behind it. We hide behind the productivity, the expertise, being the reliable one or being the successful one. And over time, that armor becomes so heavy. A coaching process helped him see that underneath all of it was an unexpressed inner calling, something present since childhood, but ignored in favor of approval, safety, and achievement. And this is huge for side hustlers and high performers because many of us aren't confused about what you're good at. You're confused about why you're doing it. One of the more powerful distinctions in the episode was the difference between imagination and intuition. See, imagination, externally driven for brings money, fame, recognition, status, approval. Imagination is what asks, like, what will make me look successful? Intuition is internally driven for like service, contribution, meaning, responsibility. And intuition asks you what feels worth dedicating my life to. Florian made it very clear that a vocation isn't about titles or outcome. It's about dedicating your skills in service of something greater than yourself. That doesn't mean you have to live in poverty, and that doesn't mean you're going to have to struggle. What it means is alignment. This is where most people misunderstand purpose. They think, I find my vocation, I have to start over. Or if I choosing meaning, then I have to abandon experience and options. And if I follow my purpose, then I'm going to lose the stability that I built. But actually, Florian says the opposite. Florian says vocation and skill set must work together because vocation answers the why do I care, while your skill set answers how do I contribute. This mirrors a lot. Moving, like, for me, this was like hit me like hard because this is essentially what I went through from strength and conditioning into this personal performance strategy. I was like struggling because I didn't want to discard my skills or my like studies or the grad school. I didn't want to throw all that away, like the money, time, energy, effort that I put into learning about how to improve physical performance for sport. So it was a challenge for me. But when I realized that I didn't need to throw it away, I just needed to evolve it or recontextualize them. That's where the invitation came. That's where I stepped into vocating. And it was awesome speaking with Florian because we're so aligned on a lot of different things. He's got a 7-step framework that he shared. And he doesn't stop just at sitting around thinking the philosophy. This framework here, he had built to be a practical, repeatable system to help other people operationalize their vocation. His framework helps people cut through the noise, really identify their vocation, define a theory of change, choose where to apply it, build stamina and perseverance, measure your impact, and design meaningful professional path. This framework lives in his book titled On Vocation. And he's got a bunch of other books on the way, specifically around how to gamify and create more of an impact. But the key point from his book on vocation is that vocation isn't vague and that's actionable and is trainable. Florian was also sharing with us on the episode that many people are always like avoiding the questions, and just avoiding these deeper questions don't just make it disappear, and you can't just carry on. All it does is delay a lot of this stuff. And the longer you delay, the higher the cost becomes. Common things that end up happening is that quiet dissatisfaction, the over identification with money or status, the late life regret, the feelings of I never really chose my life. So Florian puts it perfectly. He says work becomes exhausting, especially when it's disconnected from who you are. And again, like I said, that Florian and I connect so well. Like a lot of the things that he was talking about, like choosing consciously instead of reacting. It's what I'm constantly talking about, and prime principles of clarity and intention, making sure that you're aligning or you're acting in an alignment, I should say. And the whole process or framework that he's put together here is so close to the prime performance process around generating momentum and creating sustainable success and becoming that prime performer. It's different language, but it's essentially the same work. And that's why I feel like Florian and I kicked it off so well. It was great conversation. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you go back, listen to the full episode. And the final thing I want to leave you with here is around choosing consciously, because vocation isn't about quitting everything and just jumping ship and going on this self-exploratory journey. It's really about choosing consciously. So when your work becomes an expression of who you are, effort feels different. Contribution feels energizing. Success stops feeling hollow. And you don't need to abandon the life. You just need to author it. So if you're interested in hearing more, I highly recommend you checking out his book. Website is onvocation.com. Again, the book is called On Vocation, Aligning Purpose with Profession. And check and follow him on social medias and such too, because he's got upcoming books specifically around purpose and business and purpose and capital. So for your weekly reflection, pause, sit back, ask yourself honestly, am I living my life or just responding to expectations set by other people? You don't need to answer it today or right now, but just let it sit and think about it. But you do need the courage to ask the question and answer it honestly. So as always, reflect honestly, choose intentionally, and keep surviving the side hustle. And that's it for this episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found this valuable, the best way to support the show is to rate and review on Apple or Spotify. It helps get the show in front of more driven individuals just like you, and helps them discover the tools to get unstuck, break through burnout, and build something real. And you can always connect deeper with me, our guests, or grab free resources at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. Whether it's a strategy call, the Prime Performance Personality Quiz, some of our products, or just to check out our free content library, connect with us over at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. And hey, remember this, you weren't meant to just grind. You were built to grow. So stay conscious, stay committed, and keep showing up. Peace, guys.